All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I call the meeting of the Community Development and Human Services Committee meeting to order on this Tuesday, March the 12th at 1:30 p.m. I am Jason Winston, chair of the committee, and I am joined by my colleagues to my right, Councilmember Jason Dozier, to my far left, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, and to my immediate left, Councilmember Andrea Boone. This does constitute a quorum, so now I'll make an adoption I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. We have a second by Councilmember Dozier. Mr. Evans, can you please open the vote?
1 moment. All right, the vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Next, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. A second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Thank you. That takes us to public comment section of our agenda. Each person speaking today will have 3 minutes. I'll gently remind you we have 30 seconds left. Our first speaker today is Ms. Henry Jordan.
Give now to the Spirit of God, everyone that's here. Therefore will I also deal in fury. My eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. Ezekiel 8, chapter 16, verse. A slaughter weapon suggests the massive destruction of human life that was impending. Jesus told me if James Griff started crying, not to have mercy upon him, because his wicked deeds leads to death. Far above all principality and power and might and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this world, but also in that which is to come. Ephesians 1st chapter, 21st verse. Principality and power and might and dominion refer to various classes of angelic beings. Their name is Jesus. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Isaiah 45th chapter, 7th verse. The phrase, I create evil, refers to physical evil or calamity rather than moral evil. We should ask God to create his righteousness in us, James Griff and others, among whom also we all had our conversations in time past, in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. Ephesians 2nd chapter, 3rd verse. In essence, Paul admits we Jews were not better than you Gentiles. Both ethnic groups were sinful. We should ask Jesus to conquer our sin to avoid hell and destruction. It's one thing about God. He warns before destruction because he wouldn't be a just God if he didn't. And we thank God and we praise God for that. Give us the power to disobey Satan and the power to obey Jesus. I speak it in your life for it to happen in my life. Because in flesh, there's sin.
30 seconds.
We need to conquer sin in us, in our flesh. Pride, God said the city council, the city of Atlanta, this building is full of pride and don't have Christ as their goal. We want to conquer that pride in us. Let me not have pride because I can do nothing without Jesus Christ. I do it by His Spirit, not by my power, but by the power of Christ.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Next, we'll have Jim Moulton. You'll have 3 minutes.
Distinguished members, City Council, what is your why? Why are you here? Why do you do this? Why leads to the how, leads to the what? Think about it for a minute. We stand at a crossroads. Atlanta, a city brimming with potential, faces a growing challenge. Congested roads, frustrated commuters, and a disconnect with the natural beauty that surrounds us. Multiple departments managing similar resources next to each other. But what if we could rewrite this narrative? Why are we here today discussing budgets and infrastructure? It's not just about traffic, it's about the future we envision for Atlanta. We want a city where thriving families can easily access parks and green spaces, fostering health and well-being. Businesses can flourish with a transportation network that attracts top talent and keeps goods moving. Clean air and vibrant environment become hallmarks of our city, attracting tourism and investment. This is the why. This is the vision that compels you, compels us to consider a strategic investment in our Department of Natural Resources. How do we achieve this vision? By prioritizing a multimodal transportation network and green space management of the properties we already own and can direct. Imagine a city where directed bike lanes weave through our neighborhoods, creating a safe and healthy commuting option. Smart traffic management systems reduce congestion and improve travel times for everyone. Public green spaces become seamlessly connected through walking and biking paths, fostering a sense of community. Green spaces connect business, homes, communities, say across the river. Spaces that can be managed by a single entity, Department of Natural Resources coming from Department of Watershed Management and possibly being managed under a constituent of Department of Parks and Recreation. Chattanooga was an ecological disaster, but now welcomes green tourism. This is the how. These are the practical steps that turn our vision into reality. What does it cost? Yes, there is an investment involved, but let's not see it as expense. It's a down payment on the future. What you spend now will produce many tens of times over. Think of the long-term benefits. Reduced healthcare costs associated with a healthier population. Increase economic productivity with a more efficient transportation system and green space management. And a population that believes in their vicinity and becomes a community, not a disjointed set of people, each with their own small neighborhoods, but the connection to everyone. That is the what. This is the return on investment that will propel Atlanta towards a brighter tomorrow.
30 seconds.
Distinguished council members, let's transform Atlanta. Let's invest in a future where our city is not just a place to live, it's a place to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brother Anthony Muhammad. You'll have 3 minutes. And I'd like to recognize we've been joined by Council Members Mary Norwood and Councilmember Bakhtiari.
I am that I am. A Negus, King of Kings, the original Aboriginal indigenous person of North America. I come here to talk about why we need to recognize my aunt, the goddess, and Carmen, one of the same. We have in the city of Atlanta, the majority citizen, dog, anti-matter people look like me. But the top 10%, about 260,000 people, control 75% on every dollar that look like me. The top 10%, Mr. Dozier. And you got the lower 50% don't even have $2 in the bank. The state of the black wealth and the percentage. Why I talk about that? Look at the condition of the people here in North America. My people, my ancestry is here of Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. Never been on no Caucasian boats they talk about. Never had no boats that brought us nowhere. My ancestors always here. Then you came over, mixed up with our women, and we began to create some Indians, as you have done all over there. But why does I talk about that? That the majority of citizenry are suffering in this city, not due to some of the things I've known about the mayor initiated. So small houses on Martin King. Got a program to help with the youth to have more access to opportunities. But you members that continue to be here representing, when are y'all gonna stand up and speak truth for the benefit of the poor people that continue to live in this city? You have had Ms. Norwood ran for mayor the first time. You know, I had supported her, put my name on my vehicle when I found out they were giving money to people to support them. I didn't like that. I like truth. And why would I bring that up again? Because we got a problem in the city of Atlanta. Mr. Westmoreland, all you members of council, we have a serious problem in this city of Atlanta. Atlanta University, Spelman College, my nieces, my cousins of ladies, why is they being exposed to something that they don't know about? You got this city the highest concentration of HIV, the fourth largest city in America. Now you got this city called the Black Knocker. If we keep not wanting the people to know what's going on, the mark I talked about gonna have some serious recognition to put upon this city, because it's time now for you to do the right thing. I greet you as I did not. Assalamu alaikum. I say, and I say.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Catherine Cope. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Good afternoon. We're in the afternoon now. I just want to speak a little bit on behalf of the work that I do, my main work, which is I'm the executive director of Eco Addendum, which is an environmental nonprofit based in Atlanta. And for the last 10 years or so, we have been working very specifically in the natural areas in City of Atlanta in our parks and green spaces. What is a little bit of a story that's flying under the radar, but is very important to share, is that the forest, the urban forest, a lot of this is in our parks and green spaces of Metro Atlanta, is a different forest than in most other cities. Our city developed very late. Our forest was an old-growth forest only 20 decades ago after the Treaty of Indian Springs. So we have remnants of very high-value forest and the old-growth forest all over the city. And my organization has been doing a lot of work in educating about these forests. We're taking folks out from every single council district. We're learning about this forest. We're actually doing volunteer work, removing invasives, and we've been getting funding to do this from other places. We've got some new state funding coming in to help us do this. But these natural areas are a signature quality for the city of Atlanta. Other cities don't have this type of forest, and this is true for all over Metro Atlanta. Other cities, other municipalities are starting to hire forest managers. They're starting to recognize that these natural areas within our parks and green spaces are very special. We need to take good care of them. So I just would like to say that I support a new focus for the Parks Department and funding for that focus to work more in educating about and taking care of maintaining and restoring those high-value natural areas that the City of Atlanta has in its parks and green spaces that other cities don't have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Deborah Pearson. That's Deborah Pearson, is she here? Okay. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Pearson, and I am a retired 30-year classroom teacher, high school, of the Atlanta Public School System. And with that type of career for 30 years, I thank the angels that I am now a naturalist, where I can kind of decompress from teaching high school and be in forested areas. It is a very beautiful transition, and I'm really happy about that. I've become a naturalist. I'm on the board of the woman who just spoke, Catherine Cope. I'm on the board of the Eco Addendum organization, and as a naturalist and an outdoor person, I've gone to many of the forested areas of Atlanta's parks. And as a naturalist, I have led volunteers who have come into those parks, and they have removed invasives from these high-value natural areas within these parks. The operative word here is old growth. Many of Atlanta's parks have old growth soils, which means that the soils are very old. The plants are remnants of the original forests that occupied these areas. And these areas within these parks, they serve as carbon sinks. They are oases of trees and plant life that remove toxins from the environment that allow our citizens to breathe pure air and to breathe the health of the forest. Dozens of these forests have old growth remnant soils, and multiple dozens of people come into these areas to volunteer to remove the invasives that could potentially threaten the trees and the native plants that abide there. There are a plethora of native tree species and native plant species that live in these old growth forest remnants.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I am speaking on behalf of the increased funding for the protection and the maintenance of parks with this type of ecological value and ecological infrastructure. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Dejan Williams. And again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will say this is my first time in here, so I'm appreciative of being able to speak to you all. I am here on behalf of Eco-Addendum to speak about natural areas within our parks. I moved here from Virginia expecting to move into a concrete jungle, and to my surprise, I have found a plethora of green spaces and old growth remnants in Atlanta. And through that, getting involved with Eco-Addendum, I now lead volunteers and community members within these parks to remove invasives and maintain the health of our parks. Through these experiences and interactions with community members, it is evident that they want to see the health of their parks maintained, although they do not know how to access that, nor do they know the education on how to do that. From one of our programs, we just got funded by the Georgia Forestry Commission for the Trees Across Georgia grant. We now have a workforce training program where we can take community members, no matter the experience, small or large, and train them how to really take care of our parks the right way and maintain it the right way. Why am I here speaking to you guys today is because, as you can see, Georgia wants to support this, but with the additional support from the city, we would be able to reach more community members, more organizations, and train our already appointed park maintenance workers to do this the right way so that we can continue to see the preservation of our natural areas in our parks. So I appreciate you guys listening, and if I do have permission, I do have a flyer for the program that we have that is already funded.
Yep, we'll get somebody to grab it if you want to leave it right there. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next, we have Michael Halicki. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Michael Halicki with Park Pride. It's great to be here with you today. 2 weeks ago, Parks and Green Space advocates showed up at CDHS and made the case for an expanded natural areas team at DPR as part of the FY 2025 budget. At that meeting, I asked for CDHS to consider the council's resolution on their budget priorities to include the things that we discussed. On Monday, March 4th, council passed resolution 24R3186. This resolution identified council's priorities for the FY 2025 budget. We were pleased to see that this list of council priorities included the issues we raised 2 weeks ago. The council resolution included two DPR priorities. The first is to develop and pursue funding to create a natural areas team within the Department of Parks and Recreation, including appointing a director of natural resources and additional maintenance workers to focus on tree care and combating invasive species. We wholeheartedly endorse this priority exactly as it is stated, 100%. An expanded natural areas team will give DPR the capacity to manage the city's publicly accessible forest areas and parks and nature preserves in a proactive rather than reactive way. So I'm here to say thank you. That's my first point. It's also worth noting that the second Parks and Rec priority included in the legislation to ensure the Department of Parks and Recreation continues to receive needed budget increases and that the increase in the Park Improvement Fund from last year is not used to offset the need to grow DPR's budget. At the time that the Park Improvement Fund legislation was introduced, it was stated by many that these funds should supplement but should not supplant the need to grow DPR's budget. There should be no backsliding, and this point cannot be overstated. We're on a trajectory to become a best-in-class city for parks and recreation, a city that prioritizes maintenance so all of the parks in the city are safe, clean, and enjoyable for all in all parts of the city. We need to stick to the plan and continue to grow DPR's budget to meet growing needs. That's point number 2. Like council, we will be watching with great interest to see the budget when it's released next month. When it does, our hope is that the administration will consider the recommendations of council and Parks and Green Space advocates, along with the other priorities for an FY 2025 budget that recognizes current realities and looks to the future. As forested areas and nature preserves are the fastest growing segment of Atlanta's parks inventory, an expanded natural areas team should be a part of this plan. This team, as part of a budget for DPR that keeps pace with growth, should be part of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Lewis Woodson. Mr. Woodson, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Lewis Woodson. I'm chairperson for Parks and Recreation for NPUP in Southwest Atlanta. And we'd like to thank the council for listening to the recommendations that were made. We really appreciate that. I don't have to tell anybody how important parks are. I'm sure you all know. In terms of it affects the quality of life, it affects our health, and it affects the economic condition of the city. When these corporations look around and decide where to locate their employees, having a city with a good park and a good park system stands out. It really does. The ecosystem in our parks are really, really important, and that takes me over to Melvin Drive Park, where we have a creek that's flooded with tires that's been there for some of those probably 20 years. Park maintenance should take care of that, you know, and I'm really disappointed that those things have been there that long. And the other thing I want to mention is the William Walker Recreation Center roof. Seems like we keep going back and forth on that, and that's a great building, but we're losing the valuation there with pans catching water coming in the roof when it rains, and that's really a sad situation. So we need to make sure that we improve and rectify those situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Keith Morton. Mr. Morton, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I want to thank each and every council member, Dozier, Norwood, and Andrea. Thank you for last weekend coming out and helping our volunteers as we look to clean up Lionel Hampton Beecher. First of all, I am here to advocate and also support the budget allocations for maintenance for natural areas. As you know, Lionel Hampton Beecher is a 2,000 acre plus forest in Southwest Atlanta. It touches about 2 or 3 communities. Before the Beltline touched District 11, we were employed by the city to help do community coordinating so that District 11 could be part of the tax allocation for the Beltline. And so we do have some trailheads and spurs that go into Lionel Hampton Beecher. We have done volunteer cleanups, and we would very much like to support this budget and hope that we can access some of the funding so we can continue to clean up the area. The trails have not been maintained. They're heavily used. There's a lot of overgrowth and moss, and they need to be power washed, and there's other maintenance things that need to happen within the natural forest. So we are here advocating and urging the council that we'd like to support this. Okay.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Next, we have James Taylor. We have James Taylor going once, going twice. All right, we'll move on. Mr. Bruce Morton.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you all again. Bruce Morton, I'm here to say hello. And again, thank you for your continued support of parks throughout the decades that I've been involved. I did want to make a couple of corrections. It's 220 acres that Lionel Hampton Beecher Hills is, not 2,000. But we would love to have 2,000 acres added to our natural resources inventory. So we're gonna claim that, Keith. So I too am here to support budgetary support for maintenance of our natural areas. They are so precious. I want to again thank you all for what you've done for parks over the decades. I've been around since, and Councilmember Norwood, you remember when we formed Park Pride many moons ago, but we won't talk about how long ago that was. But our urban forests are so important for the not only mental health of the residents, but also for our water quality, and there are so many other benefits that support you all supporting the budget increase or budget allocation for maintenance of our natural areas. I want to thank you all again on behalf of my grandchildren for West Cascade Park. It's a park that they can now walk to. It's so important that we used to have to go into the woods on private property. Now it's public property, and those can't be measured in dollars. Those experiences that our young people are having and our adults. I was out and saw some residents from our cleanup, Councilmember Boone, who are out again using the trail and picking up litter on the trail. So we want to, again, express support for budgetary allocations for natural areas maintenance and resource allocation. So thank you all.
Thank you. And our last speaker for today is Sandra Kruger. And again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, City Council. Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Kruger. I'm the Executive Director for the Olmsted Linear Park Alliance over in Druid Hills community. And I want to thank you for your time today and for giving me the opportunity to speak. I want to echo Michael Halleck's and my colleagues' comments in regards to expanding the DPR funding. And I also want to thank the CDHS for hearing our call 2 weeks ago and and including the need for expanded natural areas team and a director of natural resources in their list of priorities for fiscal year 2025. Having a dedicated team with specialized training is key and essential for maintaining these urban forests so that they are healthy and safe for all of our visitors. As someone who manages Deep Dean Park, which is a 22-acre old-growth forest, I understand the complexities and the need for additional resources to ensure that these forests and all of Atlanta's natural areas continue to thrive and to be a beautiful, safe refuge for our park visitors. And I am full support of expanding the DPR budget to meet these needs. If you haven't been to Deep Dean, I encourage you to come out. I'll be glad to give you a tour. It's a beautiful refuge and something to see. So again, thank you for your time and have a nice day.
Thank you, and thank you to all our speakers for today, especially those who spoke up today about expanding natural resources for our Parks Department. I sit on the Finance Executive Committee, and that was added to our FY25 budget to explore funding options there. So looking forward to having those discussions in our Finance Executive Committee. Moving on today, we have 3 presentations today, and so with that, we try to keep them as succinct as possible, but looking forward to first welcoming the Atlanta Beltline for their quarterly report. President and CEO, Mr. Clyde Higgs.
All right, good afternoon. Again, my name is Clyde Higgs, and I am the president and CEO for Atlanta Beltline, and Chair Winston, also my board member. Thank you for having us, and great to see a number of your faces around here. And so Council Member Westmoreland and Boone, you all may know that this is actually a very special month in March. This marks the 3rd anniversary of the passage of the Special Service District for the Beltline. And it has gone by fast, but whoever writes the next book about the Atlanta Beltline, March of 2021 is going to go down in history from a funding perspective. And so again, just want to nod that really provided some headway for us to get things moving. Not only did it provide $100 million for Beltline design and construction, but it also freed up an additional $45 million for housing affordability, an additional $12 million for economic development. And so all of these great announcements that you see about the Atlanta Beltline is really because of that SSD. That was a game-changing moment for us. And so as we talk about, housing affordability, one of the things that we're proud of is this new development right off the south side trail of the Beltline, and that's Stanton Park Apartments, where we actually got into the 30% of area median income from an affordability perspective. And that was a unique cooperation amongst all the various agencies that think about housing affordability, be it Invest Atlanta, obviously the mayor's office, Atlanta Housing, our community members, and also the private sector coming together to make that reality. And also I mentioned economic development. That is one of the unsung heroes for Beltline, with a focus on our small business community. And the SSD has freed up a number of funds so that we can actually support our small business community, specifically our legacy community along the Beltline, so that they can actually take advantage of the significant investment. And then quickly, I will highlight another program, because we are in the 2nd season of Beltline Marketplace. And so this is our first foray into what we describe as commercial affordability. So providing space for our small businesses that can't pay, let's say, the $70 a square foot rent that some places are getting. We're actually providing container space along the Beltline. We charge these companies $250 a month. They can operate on the Beltline and get access to the 2 million people that walk on the Beltline on an annual basis. And the Kadita Fund was the original organization that provided funding for that program. And then also in the economic development sphere is a little known fact, but that we actually have conduit underneath the belt line. So we have the ability to run dark fiber underneath the trail, and that's going to provide opportunities for our school kids to have public Wi-Fi, just smart things from a safety and security perspective, and we're working with Honeywell and EX Squared in advancing our smart city strategy. And so if I were standing up in 2015, this would be a very different reality, Councilmember Boone, with regards to affordability. We have made significant strides with regards to production of housing affordability along the Beltline. We're almost at 3,600 units of affordable housing created or preserved in the Beltline tax allocation district. But the real star of the show there is that we have quadrupled our land for future housing affordability. We've gone from about 22 acres to about 90 acres of land for future affordability. We know that the magical goal is 5,600 units of housing affordability. We think by the end of 2030, we will exceed that amount. So lots of effort there, going in the right direction. We have exceeded our annual goal for the last 3 years, but we still have a lot of work to do for sure. And then quickly, we all know that housing affordability, there's no silver bullet. There is no panacea. There is no one-trick pony that solves all of our challenges. So you have to have multiple strategies out there to really attack this problem. And our sister organization, the Atlanta Beltline Partnership, has stood up a really innovative program based off of the work of the Westside Future Fund to essentially pay the property tax increase that our legacy residents are feeling because of new improvements, be it parks, trails, you name it. This program has the ability to pay, for example, let's say someone's property tax was $1,000 a year, and because of these new improvements that are coming online, it goes to $3,000 a year. This program has the ability to pay the difference between that $1,000 and that $3,000 increase. So very exciting. You have to have multiple arrows in the quiver to actually challenge what we're facing from a housing affordability perspective. And this is just quickly what I talked about a little bit earlier about the land acquisition. This is going to allow us to do deep and permanent affordability along the Beltline when you control the dirt. One of our latest acquisitions that you may have read about late last year is the acquisition of Pittsburgh Yards, and roughly about 14 acres right there at University and Metropolitan. We actually control that site now. And so for us, that gives us the ability to really drive home big, deep housing affordability. Probably didn't say the right words there, and that I'm listening to that, but that's where we're going. And then for, I guess, the star of the show, we all think about trails with regards to Beltline. I would say in the next 12 to 18 months, and this is our drop the mic moment, is that we will have 85% of the Beltline completed or under construction. That's very exciting for us, because when I first joined as CEO about 5 years ago, it was very ambiguous about what we were going to do from a completion perspective. That's why that SSD, again, was that moment that really, really changed the trajectory for the Beltline. And I'm just thrilled to be in this position to continue to lead this project. But lots of effort there. You can see what we have completed in green. You can see in the orange, which is under construction, but our design and construction team has been doing a fantastic job with regards to trail completion. And I'll go through these really quickly, but Southside Trail, we're continuing to move forward. Councilmember Winston on Southside Trail, segments 4 and 5. We're going to announce a contractor for segments 2 and 3 very soon for those last remaining segments. The West Side Trail, the final segment of West Side Trail, I'm excited, will be completed in the summer of next year, and that continues just again to make a really good progress and momentum there. Also, another access point, RDA Streetscapes access point. One of the things that people don't realize is that we are also responsible for making sure that as we touch key Beltline neighborhoods, that we improve sidewalks, we make sure that they have lights and cameras, and so it's beyond the trail that we try to improve our community. And former board member Dozier, you may be happy to know that we continue to move forward with Anoda Park, and we should have some significant announcements on that pretty soon, but we hope to start construction the summer of this year. Also, some additional enhancements to Westside Park and places for people to ride bikes from a pump track perspective. That is moving in the right direction. And also on the Northwest Trail, Mary, you may be happy to know that we are starting construction on segment 5 of the Northwest Trail of the Beltline. So again, just really playing catch up, and the SSD really provided us the ability to accelerate and again play catch up. We are going to have a groundbreaking for the newest segment of the Beltline late this fall, and that's from 10th and Monroe all the way up to Westminster. It's just under a mile segment of new Beltline that we're completing, and so lots of great efforts there, and so look out for a future announcement about Northeast Trail Segment 1. And also the Ponce de Leon Streetscape project, we should be wrapping that up officially here soon. But just again, lots of good effort from the team. And this is just a quick slide just to remind people of what the city looked like around the Beltline maybe a decade or ago. You may remember we have asked the community to densify. We have asked communities to allow for multifamily in neighborhoods that were historically single-family neighborhoods. And so you can see just the change in behavior and where people live with regards to Beltline. And then that leads us to the conversation about future transit. And I know that is a big topic of discussion. We hear it every day, but we have to figure out whatever that solution is going to be. You may know that ARC, the Atlanta Regional Commission, suggested that we are going to add another 2 million people to Metro Atlanta in the next quarter century. Another 2 million people in the next 25 years. We have to figure out some solutions to make sure that people can get around our city, especially after we asked our communities to go through this whole rezoning and allow these communities to densify. We need to give them an outlet. And so this might not be for the next 3 years of thinking, but what's going to be good for our city in the next 30 years is the thought process. As you may remember, MARTA is leading these efforts. They're at roughly 30% in their design process. Still got a long way to go before they even get to construction documents, but that's where we're at. And then lastly, as I wrap up, I hope that you all can join us for our signature festival, the Lantern Parade, which is going to be May 11th of this year, and it should be a really festive event, and it will be on the west side. Again, you may remember that we decided to pivot and move it from the east side to the west side to make sure that we are distributing some of that joy and love along the Beltline. So that is the conclusion of my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions. Councilmember Winston, if there are any.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Higgs. We will start off with Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Mr. Higgs. Always good to see you. I hate that I'm no longer part of the Beltline executive team, at least on the board side, but always good to see your work and always thankful to see the work that you're doing in District 4. I'm so glad Lantern Parade continues to be a District 4 event, and I look forward to future years of being able to say that. And I also appreciate the work that y'all been doing in working with both the Westview and West End communities, with both the West Side Trail connections there at Gordon Street, in Ralph David Abernathy, and also with Denoda Park. I know when I came into this office 2 years ago, those are the first things that the Westview folks brought up and wanted me to advocate for, and here we are staring down hopefully a 2025 ribbon cutting. So I just appreciate y'all's work on that. My only question is with regards to the work y'all are doing around legacy residents. I recognize that a lot of the market pressures that impact legacy, whether it's homeowners or renters, the increase in rents, increase in taxes, is what drove Atlanta Beltline Incorporated to seek additional funding to protect that population. I'm curious if y'all are doing any work in terms of, I know y'all have a pilot tied to our commercial businesses, but I wonder if there's an opportunity to particularly focus on our legacy businesses, institutions that have been in the community for a long time that help define what that community is or how people experience that community and are well respected, well loved, but are feeling a lot of the same market pressures that our residents are feeling. I'm currently working with Invest Atlanta on a citywide approach to this issue, but I'm curious with the additional funding opportunities, whether it's work with the Atlanta Beltline Partnership and other philanthropic partners, if there's a way for Atlanta Beltline to also lead on this through that lens of supporting legacy businesses within the Beltline area.
Yeah, and I appreciate the question, and the answer is yes. We are investigating a number of ways to help those legacy businesses, and so one of the things is providing that new space for companies to access as they grow. They can jump into new developments. We're having conversations with the development community as they populate or construct new places along the Beltline. We're asking them to reserve a certain section of that new development specifically for commercial affordability. We're really mimicking kind of that residential affordability program there. So they can jump in at a fraction of the market rate that they would charge. So if the market is charging $30 a square foot, then this new development has the ability to charge $10 a square foot for some of our legacy businesses. Now, that doesn't necessarily help people that are already in place or businesses that are already in place that want to stay right there. And so we're trying to come up with some programming to help with that. That would be non-TAD funds. And you may remember this through your ward service, that we can only spend our Beltline tax allocation district dollars specifically or in certain ways. And so we're trying to investigate what we can spend on, but if we can't spend the TAD dollars, we will certainly go out and raise the private philanthropic dollars to help with that. We also provide grants to legacy businesses along the Beltline for facade improvement. And so they can actually apply to this program. We marry an artist along with an engineer or a construction professional to help them beautify the facade of their facility. And that is a grant. That is not a loan or some type of other debt instrument. And so those are just some of the things that we're doing. The Beltline Economic Development Group has also stood up something that we describe as Beltline Business Ventures, and it is there directly to help those small legacy businesses to thrive along the Beltline. We've been very active in that space, for sure.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dozier. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? One quick question. As segments 2 and 3 and also with the construction of 4 and 5 now actively happening, just wanted to know, has there been any coordination with ATL DOT about that segment? Because I know that the South Boulevard Complete Street project is currently in the design phase, but I'm just curious about the need to collaborate to see what that corridor is going to look like, especially as it looks like a new entry point into Grant Park will happen because of the Beltline's construction there. So I just wanted to know if you all were communicating about what that design may look like in that area.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and I will say yes, we are communicating. I talk personally with Commissioner Cabanis on these issues, and then also my team members, Jill and Bryson. I know also talk to their staff people, but there is some coordination there, some conversation about making sure that we can do 1 + 1 = 3. I think is what you're asking.
Okay, and then with segment 2 and 3 coming on board pretty soon, is the idea that because you don't have significant like infrastructure, like bridges being built, that construction will catch up with segment 4 and 5 and pretty much happen, are in around the same time?
Yeah, so that, segments 2 and 3, for those that are listening, this is roughly from the connector to all the way to Metropolitan, roughly, and going west. And so that is the hope. We're investigating right now what we can do from an acceleration perspective and see if that makes sense. Our original target date for construction of segments 2 and 3 was early fall of 2026, but we're looking at ways to see if we can figure out how to accelerate that remaining segment there.
Okay, I appreciate the hard work, you and your team. In your words, this is the holy grail. 80% of the trail will be complete once those 2 segments are done. So looking forward to it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Executive Director Christopher Norman from the Metro Atlanta Land Bank, who will give their annual report.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for the invite. I'm glad to be here. Chairman Winston, the rest of the City Council, and the committee. So this is our annual report. So it's been a year since I've been here before, so a little bit to catch up on, but I'll breeze through as quickly as I can. Some of the information is there just for a takeaway as well, so you just kind of have the information. Just kind of wanted to bring you up to speed on where we are. The land bank was created back in 1991 and became operational in 94. And originally it was the City of Atlanta and Fulton County that were the members, and of course we operated in unincorporated Fulton County. Since that time, as you know, there's been municipalization throughout the county, and so that ended up taking out the unincorporated portion of the service area. So we have actually always had the legal ability to bring in other cities. So City of South Fulton is the first city that is exercising their right to petition to join the land bank. So they have approved it at their city council. The mayor signed off, and our land bank board met and approved that action as well. And so that is going to result in the land bank expanding its service area beyond, so be Atlanta, and then also City of South Fulton. There is no unincorporated portion in Fulton County, so we don't have any of that portion available to become part of the membership. So what does that mean for the council and for Atlanta? The board membership, board representation does not change. There are currently 7 board members. 4 of those are City of Atlanta, with South Fulton will pick up 2, and we'll expand to 9 members on the board. And so there'll be legal documentation coming your way in the form of the revised interlocal agreement, which will require sign off by the city and the county. And that is right now in draft form and being circulated. So, and then quickly, what do they want us to do as they come in? Similar to some of the things we do with our current activity is that they would like us to assist them with acquiring and controlling blighted properties. They also want us to provide some maintenance for some of these properties that they also own, and also to assist them with strategic assemblage of properties. And they're willing to make at this point, an annual contribution of $100,000 to support operations. Of course, bear in mind that is subject to change based on the activity and the demands on the land bank. So just want to give you an update on that fact. That's where we stand. So let's talk about the land bank. People always ask, what do you have in the land bank? So we actually currently have about 241 properties in the land bank. Those are distinct parcels. They are consistent of property that we own outright. That's fee simple controlled by the land bank. We also have a land banking depository agreement where we bank property for nonprofits. And then also the demo lien property abatement program, which we are foreclosing, well, the city is foreclosing on demolition liens, and those properties are coming into the possession of the land bank. And so we maintain all those properties. And just to give you a sense of the scales, those 240 properties, according to the tax assessors, almost $26 million worth of unimproved value. So it's a significant portfolio. And so this is the distribution. You'll see that the orange is pretty much all the fee simple things that the land bank controls. And then you'll see our other partners. We have property with the Police Foundation, the Westside Future Fund, ANDP, and Invest Atlanta, are all whole properties within inside the land bank. So if occasionally if you go to our property list and you see a notation that says this is under the control of another entity but it's held in the land bank, that's because we're holding it for another entity. So it may be Invest Atlanta, it may be Westside Future Fund, Police Foundation, et cetera. So just want to give you a sense of that. Maintenance, as you know, we try to be good stewards of our properties. And so we've actually have performed over 720 maintenance operations for these parcels in the last 12 months, roughly $126,000 going towards that. And since we are not sovereign and underneath the city or the county, we do pay insurance. So this approximately $25,000 worth of insurance premiums that were paid to do that. We currently have 3 maintenance companies, so we do it outsourced, and you see those here, and we do occasional demolitions as well. And so we have these capacities and capabilities available to us. So what have we been up to in addition to maintaining properties? So we actually have transactional activity going on as well. A $6 million line of credit was basically approved in the last year. That is in coordination with Invest Atlanta, as part of the Housing Opportunity Bond allocation. You may be familiar with those proceeds that were set aside for those types of variety of different purposes, but that was a public acquisition component, which we had not used before. And so that has now been activated. Basically, the end of last year, August or so, we closed on that line of credit, and we actually have executed our first acquisition. We bought 11-acre site in 10.95 acres at the intersection of Barge Road and Campbellton, and that's from the YWCA, and that's a heavily wooded site that is going to be turned into some form of housing. We're working with the Housing Innovation Lab and the Mayor's Office to put out an RFP, identify a development partner, so stay tuned on that one. That will be coming forth soon. In the meantime, we're maintaining that piece of property. And so we're also, this is under the strategic property acquisition umbrella of what we're doing. So we've been working closer and closer with the city in terms of trying to do some of the things that the Beltline was doing, which is assembling strategic parcels. And you know there were designated areas in the city. The Mayor's Office has identified Hollywood Road, Campbellton Road, Corridor, Thomasville, downtown. And so we'll be utilizing some of these proceeds to acquire properties in those particular footprints. And that's under the $6 million. And there may be additional funding coming to the land bank to basically buy additional types of property. These, the HOB funds, are really for residential only, but we also may pursue some commercial properties also, because as you know, those are important in terms of maintaining the fabric of our neighborhoods as we expand and welcome all these new neighbors that are coming to Atlanta. Land Trust. We had told you about a permanent affordability pilot. This is a program we have at Atlanta Land Trust, in which we have designated or basically given first priority to the land trust for properties we own within the footprint of the Beltline. We start off with 14 properties. They buy those properties from us. They've been buying them up to 25% of the market value of those properties. They've acquired the 11 of the 14. The last 3 are on hold. On the west side, I'm sure you're familiar with the West Side Lead project that the EPA is in the midst of doing remediation. 3 of those parcels were caught up in that, and so until those are remediated, they're on hold. Then at the end of that, we will consider selling those to the Atlanta Land Trust. But I do want to point out that and this gives you a sense of where they're located. This has been a very popular program. People have come from across the country to understand how we're doing this. Apparently, we have one of the more robust, I would say, relationships between a land bank and a land trust in the country. So folks do come and they want to see what we're doing here in Atlanta. Ashton Woods Parkview may sound familiar to some. This went through City Council, and as part of their zoning, they actually were required to provide 21 units of affordable housing. And the Atlanta Land Trust is marketing those under the Land Trust model. And you'll see the designations, the breakout of the units, the 4, and the 13. One thing they did, though, in the instance that the properties did not sell in timely fashion, because there is a clock at the end when they don't have to be affordable anymore, we created a backstop mechanism such that the land bank can step in and buy those properties, and then basically buy them at the affordable housing pricing, and then we in turn have time to sell those as an affordable property. So those first 4 are actually already been triggered, and so we are in the process of teeing up. It's still possible they may sell, but in the instance they don't, we're going to buy spend about $1.5 million to buy these 3 properties, about $28,000 each, and those will go for an affordable housing family or individual. And so you can see we have quite a diversity of transactions and things that we are involved in, and that $1.5 million will come from that $6 million line of credit, just so you understand where those proceeds are coming from. I mentioned the demolition lien project. This was started under Mayor Bottoms and has continued under Mayor Dickens' administration. We have about 6, 7 multifamily parcels that are basically in possession. So you see those 241 parcels. The thing that happened years back, when a lot of the apartment complex was being changed to condos, and those basically went into disrepair, and what you ended up doing was having individual parcels now for apartments. And so even though we have 241 parcels, in some cases 10 to 15 of those may be one apartment complex because they've been broken down into pieces. And so what we're having to do is take these parcels, knit them back together, release the condo declarations, come back to a universal parcel ID so we can get those out. So that's actually happening as we speak right now. We've had to clear over $1.5 million of delinquent taxes that people walked away from in order trying to get those things cleared to go. Atlanta Public Schools has provided consent, and the tax commission is working on those actions. We're also looking at single-family parcels, and we expect to have up to 50 parcels come to availability under that. And then those will be put out for RFP. The multifamilies, not certain who will handle that. It will be either Invest Atlanta or maybe the AUDC. The single-family parcels will be putting out an RFP or RFQ to identify somebody to handle those. And lastly, on the transactions, actually not last, one more, we're doing our first joint venture. So the Land Bank is empowered as an entity, is in essence a real estate company for the government. And so we are actually entering our first joint venture development off North Virginia. The U.S. Attorney took down some properties several years ago as part of a money laundering case, and they gave a couple of those to us. And so it turns out that we have a partial interest in this former apartment complex. We're working with a private party that owns the rest. And so we're now building 10 townhome housing units, of which 2 will be designated as affordable, and they're being built at cost. And the developer is not taking a developer fee for those. And so that is part of our joint venture arrangement. They will be completed by 2026. And if that falls through, then the Land Bank does have the right to basically take control of that development. So in terms of evolving how we do work, this is our first joint venture. We will not receive a developer fee, but it actually does demonstrate that we can actually be in the equity position for development. And then also want to point out that the Atlanta Public Schools, you're familiar, they've looked at their parcels in terms of what type of surplus inventory they have, and they found some. So they have 4 single-family lots in their inventory. They're looking to work with the Land Bank and the Land Trust to convert those properties into permanently affordable housing. And so this slide gives you is a excerpt from a retreat that they did, and you'll see these properties are in the neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, Peoplestown, Summerhill, and South River Gardens. So they're scattered throughout the city, but we're looking to basically work with the Atlanta Public Schools and the Land Trust at this point to convert those into permanently affordable housing. So this is another innovative way to use the Land Bank, also to bring properties in from the school system that we can basically put towards, this is a small deposit towards building more units of affordable housing to our residents and citizens. And then lastly, this is we're at the tail end, we're in the midstream of the tail end of dealing with quieting the title on sheriff and marshal deeds that were given to us 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the city of Atlanta and Fulton County gave the land bank about, this is before my time, and I think preceded quite a few of you, about 600 just basically sheriff and marshal deeds. That's not fee simple interest, that's just a representation of an interest. And you have to quiet the title to basically have sole control. And so the council awarded us $400,000 to quiet the title, which is basically a legal mechanism, lawsuit that you go through to quiet the title. We identified the first 40, the first 15 have been completed. We now have those clean and clear, and therefore we're starting to, in 2024, we're going to start moving forward with disposing of those and turning those into housing. They will all have affordability requirements, and so we're in the process of finalizing the guidelines for that, and therefore that's another source of properties that will be coming forth for that. Who does the work? Just so you get a sense of that, this is our organizational chart. You'll see the blue boxes are basically the full-time employees, the green, the red, those are basically, I call our extended family of our organization. It kind of gives you a sense that virtually we're about a 15, 20 person organization, but really you have 5 folks that are driving all of the work that I'm walking you guys through at this point in time. In order to speak to what do we do on a timely basis, we also have updated our website, so please go look at metroatlantalandbank.org. We think it's chock full of good information. But we also recognize we are in the social media age, and so we also started with a social media presence on LinkedIn, forgot the N there, Facebook and Instagram. You see we have a growing follower base there, but you can feel free to go there, follow us. We give timely updates to that. We work with a consultant to help us compose and design that, and they're coordinated by Terica Bashir, our program director at the Land Bank, to deal with that. And to give a hands-on tour, back in May, we actually organized a property tour with members of City Council, the Fulton County Commission, and our Board of Directors. Some people took us up on that. I think they enjoyed it. Thanks to the city for providing us with a van and a driver. And this is the route which we took. So you see we own properties all throughout the city of Atlanta. This is actually, if you want to see which properties that we actually visit, you can see that. It actually tells you under which program we actually have an interest in it, and also some notes about what we're doing with those properties, so you can see this as well at your leisure. And in order to keep everything nice and tidy, we have external accounting, and so we just completed an RFP process. We do formal RFPs similar to every other agency, and we just awarded the Rosales Financial Group to a 2-year contract, 3-year contract actually, with a 2-year extension to handle our books for us. And then quickly, since folks do ask us often, what are we doing here in Atlanta? We do find ourselves kind of going across speaking to people. So this year, the GIC retreat, if people are familiar with GIC, I frequently do the Land Bank 101 for that. So I travel where that is located to do that. This year was in Athens. Also went to the National Land Bank Summit in Cleveland and presented on effective local government partnerships. And also here in Atlanta, had a chance to speak at the National League of Cities and presenting on that. And these are just pictures from us. So we do have a presence here in Atlanta, but people also ask us to come out across the country. The Georgia Association of Land Banks Authorities, I serve as the president of that organization. There are approximately 31 land banks in the state of Georgia. When we were started, we were the 4th land bank. We passed legislation in 2011. It was in law 2012. And actually, we have tripled the number of land banks in the last 10 years. So now we're at the 30. And so we have a regular summit. So if anybody's ever interested in geeking out with the law of the land bank operators throughout the state, we do have an annual summit. And I do want to share that we recently reached an agreement with the GMA, Georgia Municipal Association, to come in and manage our association. So we're looking forward to that partnership going forward, and that actually may result in our summit being here in Atlanta, maybe even at their site right down the street. So just want to let you know that's the case. As you know, the board is not self-appointed. Only way you become a board member is you have to be cleared and approved by either council or Fulton County Commission. You'll see that all of the ones in green, those are firm and fine. So all 3 of the 4 are solidified at this point. There is one board member, Kate Lodel, whose term has expired, who we're in the process of seeking to replace her with a new appointee. And so you'll see that you just renominated 2 of the 3 already existing board members for Atlanta, and you'll see that others for the county are listed as well. I want to point out that in addition to the national presence, we had a visit from Puerto Rico. So the Secretary of Housing for Puerto Rico came and visited with me in the office here in Atlanta. They're basically just received authorization to operate a land bank there. They tried to constantly rebuild because of hurricanes and other types of economic conditions. And so the Center for Community Progress is involved in that. And so they brought a delegation to Atlanta to speak to us. And this is just a picture of the delegation just for your benefit. And so kind of rounding us almost to the end here. So I do know it's budget season. And so, so all this great work that we've been doing, you'll see some of the financial contributions that are being made. You'll see the county's contribution, which we're in the process of trying to increase. And then we're also asking for the city to consider the $500,000 contribution to support our operations, and then the city of South Fulton. And then bear in mind that even with these contributions, the Land Bank is an entrepreneurial organization in that we generate fees from the transaction of properties to basically supplement our budget. So without these types of contributions, and so I'm hopeful that the city, as it does its budget considerations this year, would consider the Land Bank at a $500,000 contribution level. And we would also ask if we could look at a long-term solution, maybe institutionalizing that going forward, based on the work we feel is great work that we're doing on behalf of the city of Atlanta. We did our annual report. I think everybody received that. I think I personally sent it to everyone. There's a hyperlink at the bottom if you would just want to take a look at it. We're doing the same thing for 2023. That should be out by June. And lastly, with all this great work we've been doing, you see our little cupcake there. This is actually our 30th year of operations for the Land Bank. It was under Maynard Jackson's administration that it was started. And so we'll be celebrating this year. We don't know where or how, but you will all receive an invite and maybe even a cupcake. So anyway, that is my presentation, and the takeaways are that we're really focused on these things: affordable and market housing, particularly revitalization, blight elimination, and also controlling land as necessary for development. So I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Appreciate the thorough annual report. We'll start with questions and comments from my colleagues. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Norman. As always, so good to see you.
Yes, same here.
Just one quick question, and maybe this is, I don't know if it's in your charter or in the foundational documents that set y'all up. Are y'all limited exclusively to acquiring lands for housing, or is there opportunity for y'all to acquire commercial properties as well?
Great questions. We are actually authorized to acquire any type of property. That's residential, commercial, industrial, and property for green space.
Okay, because I know a lot of the presentation that you shared today and a lot of your work with the administration on the housing strike force and some other projects just that we need housing badly, but I know in my district and many of our districts, we have a number of commercial properties that have fallen in disrepair, serve as eyesores in our community, but bones are still good for those buildings. And I wonder if there's an opportunity to work with us and work with the administration on an action plan to get those back into shape. And I'm thinking out loud, so I'm gonna shut up because I know I'm in the microphone and it's being recorded, but I just wanted to just put that on your radar. Is something that I think is important for us as a body to try to really address in a meaningful way. In the same way that we're working on housing, I think our commercial properties and our commercial opportunities, we shouldn't let that be on the wayside. So I know y'all probably have an initiative around that, but especially as you present the next annual report and as you do your work with the city going forward, something to keep in the back of your mind as well.
Sure, and just to address that, there are land banks across the state that actually more heavily focus on commercial downtown revitalization efforts. Kind of depends. The one thing about the state law, it does allow for you to define your purpose as a community. Is it housing? Is it affordable? Is it market? Is it green space? Is it commercial? So we're actually clear to do any of those types of properties. So.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Dozier. Next, we have Councilmember Boone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Norman, for this very thorough presentation. How can we get parcels, a list of parcels for our district?
So we have all the properties are listed on our website under, if you go there, there's a property tab. There should be a way to filter by that, but if not, I can go to the staff. We have an electronic interface and we can sort. So if you like that, I'll make a note to myself to go in and try to filter by district, and then we can shoot those, export that and send it to we can just try to do it to every district.
I really would appreciate that.
Okay.
Also, I had a really great success story with the land bank in my district. The view at Westview across from the Westview Cemetery, that is a wonderful, wonderful development. And I remember when the late C.T. Martin demolished that property, and now it's about 100 units. So we are very, very happy in our community. And we have a parcel down near Fulton Industrial that we like to get developed also. So again, thank you so much for your wonderful work. And I would love to see all the parcels for my district. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Boone, Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Sure.
And happy third year.
Thank you.
Really wanted to ask a quick question. I mean, extraordinary work, as always, and similar to Councilmember Boone, I'm going to take a look at that property list, although I know it's really challenging in my district now given land costs, so that's putting it mildly.
Sure.
One of the things I did want to ask, when you mentioned Fulton County and trying to get additional funding out of them, I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed in their line item given the size of their tax base.
Right.
And how is that if you could elaborate?
Sure. There was a period of time, I think at the inception of the land bank, before our time, they were almost 50-50. They were imperative with one another in terms of their contribution. We were able to obtain $300,000 from them last year. We requested an additional increment this year. There was some internal moving of the budget on their side, and so unfortunately, it was cut by 200. So we're in the process of addressing that. I've met with Commissioner Arrington's office, and we're meeting with Commissioner Abdul Rahman's tomorrow, and then others to talk about that support. And so we would agree that with the size of the budget, as well as the support of the city, which is a part of the county, and also with the city of South Fulton, and potentially College Park, East Point, that I believe that we can have a healthier contribution from the county. So,
And I'm happy to hear that. I think that council would love to see the counties. And speaking of Fulton counties, is DeKalb County also one that you commissioned that you were talking to? Because obviously my district is probably 80% DeKalb.
yes, we are not. DeKalb County's never made a financial contribution during the history of the land bank to us. So we're not having any financial conversations with them. Just the county, Fulton County, and the city.
Okay, thank you. If there is anything I can do to help build bridges to help foster better communication there, please let me know, because I'm certain that there's never enough financing for the housing that you all are building, given the dire need for it right now.
Correct.
And I suppose my last question to you is, what do you think your biggest goal is for this year, and how can council help you achieve it?
Biggest goal this year is to really put these, get some of these single-family properties back in line. You know, think about the land bank. We want to see ourselves as a short to medium-term owner of property. The goal is to not warehouse it forever. And so we want to really see these parcels getting activated so they can start going vertical. So the financial contributions to support the operations, because it is sophisticated real estate work. And so we do, and we have staff and lawyer on staff now, which we did not have before. We may need to add a paralegal. So we're doing these other types of elements. And so the support we're asking for is specific to support this type of activity. So
Okay.
So yes, more production and just making sure we keep the team intact.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bakhtiari. One quick question I had was around your relationship and partnership with APS. You had a couple of properties listed that were in District 1 that were a few lots that you all are looking to partner on for permanent affordability.
Right.
I'm curious, I know at least one of those is a non-conforming lot. And so can you walk me through that process, what that looks like? Is that working with the neighborhood planning unit to be able to accept variances, to be able to put some kind of affordability on those properties?
Yeah, so we would go through a normal assessment process like any other developer. And so it depends on, our role may be the more conduit. We may be joint working with Atlanta Land Trust. The Atlanta Land Trust, which I served as chair for 7 years, they also rely on external developers as well to do those. So it will be probably a combination of a developer, the Land Trust, and the Land Bank, and the APS, working with the community as well to basically have input into what's going to go there. If it's not conforming, what type of development can actually go there. We do know that the Housing Innovation Lab has been looking at doing unique type of developments to fit these other types of lots that we don't want to have stranded out there. So all of those things should occur during this process.
All right. Well, appreciate the annual report update, and I know the Jasons at least missed the portfolio tour last year, so we'd love to probably get on your calendar again to try to make that happen this year.
Good, it was a hit, and so we plan to do it again, and so we will make sure we circulate it with timely enough notice so that you can arrange for your schedule. It was about a 2-hour tour, so we'll do it again.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we have one final presentation, Atlanta Continuum of Care Quarterly Update. We have Partners for Home CEO, Ms. Catherine Bassel.
Good afternoon, Chair Whitson and committee members. Thank you so much for having me here today. This is, our quarterly update to CDHS for the work that is happening across the community related to our efforts to reduce and end homelessness in the city of Atlanta. All right, so for today, I'm going to cover an update on our housing surge, LIFT 2.0. I'm going to touch on the Rapid Housing Initiative that has now launched. We're going to give you a brief update on our recent Continuum of Care award from HUD, and then talk a little bit about our Bridge Response Initiative. So as a reminder, LIFT 2.0 has been made possible through a combination of stimulus funds, both through the city as well as our state partners through the Negative Economic Impact Fund, as well as our partners at DCA. We have a total investment of about $27 million right now that is being invested to fund housing efforts, outreach, and navigation to house a goal of 1,500 households. A part of this work, or a big portion of this work, is focused on unsheltered individuals across our community and targeting encampments across our community. To date, we have decommissioned over 14 encampments, and from those encampments housed over 529 households directly from the street. In 2023 alone, we housed almost 800 unsheltered people and a total of 2,000 households across our entire continuum portfolio of resources and interventions. As it relates specifically to the LIFT progress, we are using a number of interventions in our toolkit to house individuals in our system through the LIFT initiative. And actually, this number was updated as of this morning. We have actually housed 1,256 households, which means we are almost at 85% of the way towards our goal of 1,500 households housed by the end of 2024. And I'm excited to share that we will actually hit that goal well before the end of this year. So our system is moving rapidly and investing these dollars at a very quick pace to get folks off the street and out of shelter and into housing as quickly as possible. The chart on the slide just gives you a sort of a view into the spectrum of housing types that we use for individuals experiencing homelessness, because as a reminder, we don't just take the next person who's homeless and put them in the next housing intervention that we have. We use an individualized approach where we work with housing assessors and outreach teams to assess individuals and to connect them to the right housing intervention based on their needs and their desires and preferences. And as I say frequently, when you've met one person experiencing homelessness, you've just met one person experiencing homelessness. So everybody has their own unique set of needs and, like I said, preferences. This is just a quick snapshot of just a very small fraction of the folks who have very happily and joyfully moved into housing of their own through the LIFT initiative. And this is actually our in-town team and some of their great work that they have done working to get folks off the street. I know in-town, I think, presented at your last committee meeting. So pivoting now to the Rapid Housing Initiative, as you all have heard about for a couple years now about the great work of our supportive housing pipeline. While that initiative has been incredibly successful at bringing developers to the table to build more units of supportive housing, so in parallel to the work like LIFT, where we are just using flexible dollars to help get people into the rental market across our community, put leases in their names and help pay their rent for a period of time. In parallel to that, we are also investing in and building new units of supportive housing because we know that developers are not going to do it on their own. They need access to the subsidy, they need access to the capital and to the supportive services to make supportive housing work. And so to that end, while that pipeline has been very effective, and as you'll see on the slide and as you've seen before, we have now over 600 units in the pipeline. The challenge with that is we're waiting on construction timelines. And as you'll see on the slide, most of these boxes are green, or excuse me, pink or the salmon color, which means they're still on the way. And in the meantime, homelessness is a crisis in front of us right now. And so about a year ago, the mayor charged us and his housing team and some of our other stakeholders with getting additional units online faster. And that then birthed the Rapid Housing Initiative, which has now created the goal of creating 500, what we're calling quick build units by the end of 25. And to that end, we are getting more creative than ever at figuring out how to deliver housing in short order for people who are homeless. That includes using publicly owned land, it includes using existing housing in the portfolio that we can transition into housing for people who are homeless. And it also includes using alternative housing products like containers or modular housing. And so to that end, we issued a procurement last summer. We had the great fortune of hiring Atlantica Properties with the principal Darian Dunn, who's been an incredible partner with us on this effort. And we have moved forward at a rapid speed in partnership with the mayor's office and his senior housing team with Josh Humphreys and Shatiko Ellison and Matt Bedsall, who's here with us today, among many others who have been partners to make this happen. And so that has resulted in the first property coming online, which we have called the Melody. It's located at 184 Forsyth Street. I know many of you are very familiar with this by now. We now have the site fully occupied with 39 residents. The 40th unit is actually for a resident assistant who is somebody that has come out of homelessness and has stabilized and been in housing but has that lived experience, who will actually live on site in exchange for free or reduced rent and provide some additional set of eyes and support and oversight on the property moving forward. So we're working on filling that position now. So as you'll see, and as you're aware, an executive order was issued in August for $4 million to get the work started for phase one. There was an additional tranche of money allocated through the Housing Opportunity Bond at Invest Atlanta that had already been earmarked for supportive housing. So we have been able to since unlock $7.5 million of those dollars for this effort. And then before you today is actually a request for an additional $3 million for the next phase of this work. And that will include securing the projects that are listed on the pipeline here, including the Waterworks Reservoir, where we anticipate bringing online a minimum of about 65 units, and that could go up to 75 to 80 units there. 32 units at the ITC campus, which actually will entail repurposing existing dormitory units that are just sitting vacant. And then 405 Cooper Street, which we have talked a little bit about with you all before, still very much in the preliminary due diligence stages of that, but where we anticipate approximately about 100 units at that site. Won't go into too much detail here again about the Melody, but as you know, 40 studio micro units. Every unit has its own bathroom and kitchenette. There's a community building. We were able to bring this facility online within just 4 months of construction, which is just absolutely unheard of in the development world, at a cost of about $125,000 per unit. And as I think you all are aware, we repurposed some of the containers that were donated to us from GEMA, previously had been used as ICU rooms around the state of Georgia at area hospitals during COVID. Next steps for Rapid Housing, again, finalizing Q1 with hopefully today's approval of the funds for phase 2 to get the next sites kicked off. Q2, we hope to break ground on those phase 2 sites, and then in Q3, we plan on identifying the next sites for phase 3, and the plan to get all 500 units delivered by the end of 25. I will just also add, we are getting ready to launch a pretty significant fundraising campaign, as we do have a capital gap for this larger initiative. So you may be hearing more about opportunities to get involved in that. Moving on to the Continuum of Care Award. I usually, when HUD makes this announcement, it usually gets blasted out to all of our stakeholders, and I usually get emails saying, how can we get some of this money? And the answer is, we already get this money. This is an annual award that comes out to our community, but the nuance here that is unique to most federal funding is that Partners for Home, one of our key roles is actually serving as what we call the collaborative applicant for this money. And so what that means is actually we are the designated entity by HUD to apply for this money annually on behalf of all of the providers that actually have the direct contract with HUD for most of these funds. So I just want to flag, we actually received a substantial increase from FY22, 32% increase from our annual renewal demand in 22, which was just a little over 10 million to now 13.2 million. We're incredibly proud of this. And this is a direct reflection of the performance of the strong performance of our continuum of care. You'll see comparatively to other COCs around the state that we really came in significantly higher than our partner COCs in terms of the amount of increase that we were able to secure through this award this year. And again, this is a direct reflection of our continuous strong performance, and also a reflection of the strong partnerships that we are able to present to HUD as leverage in this application. It does include 2 new projects, one for rapid rehousing, one for permanent supportive housing, and then a significant investment for programs that target young adults who are homeless, meaning folks who are 18 to 24 who are experiencing homelessness, and as you can imagine, a particularly vulnerable population, many of whom have experienced coming out of the child welfare system or being involved in the juvenile justice system. And those are young people that we want to identify quickly and get out of our system as quickly as possible. Also clearly a priority population from HUD, and one in which they want local communities to be targeting and making sure we get out of homelessness fast. Really quickly, just touching on the emergency bridge response, which I think you all are aware of as well, made also possible through emergency legislation. So thank you all to your willingness to partner with us on this effort. And in response to the mayor's charge to prioritize people living under bridges across our community, we want to make sure that people who are unsheltered are safe and also that our infrastructure is safe. And so to that end, we are working with a number of partners across our community, including the Mayor's Office, Atlanta Police Department, Department of Public Works, Constituent Services, among many others across the city, as well as our community partners, to stand up a temporary shelter that's being operated by the Gateway Center. They raised their hand early on and said they would staff up and operate this shelter within a matter of weeks' time. So we're incredibly grateful to the Gateway Center for standing in the gap for that. This operation is now open, and we are providing round-the-clock, low-barrier emergency shelter to people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness at Priority Bridge locations. We have assigned all these individuals at these locations to housing navigators who are being assessed and working with those individuals to get into housing. Just shared a snippet of the workflow so that you all are aware who the key partners are and sort of the magnitude of the work that goes into this day in and day out. We do daily case conferencing with these teams to make sure that people that are on the streets at these locations are being connected to the right housing interventions. We work closely with our state and local partners to get these locations closed in a compassionate way to get folks to shelter and then, as I said, on to permanent housing. So with that, I will close, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. First, we'll have Councilmember Dozier. It's always quick to hit that button.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's haven't been in former chair, it's just muscle memory at this point. Catherine, so good to see you. Sorry I missed you this morning at the COC meeting this morning, but I hope all was well, and just glad that myself and Councilman Westmoreland are able to contribute where we can with the governing council. I had two sets of questions. The first is with regards to the bridge response. I know based on conversations that we've had and some of the work that I've seen with your team and with some of the outreach folks in town and others, if I remember correctly, it takes on average about 9 interactions for someone to convince them to move and go into a hotel or go into supportive housing or to take advantage of the resources that are being offered to them. Does that calculus, or has that calculus changed at all with this bridge response? Because I know that can take several months now. I know there's a little bit of urgency with this particular bridge response to try to get these folks out from under the bridge, from stop setting fires, to make sure that they can get into safe and secure housing more quickly. But I know just the nature of the type of work that goes into that might create some limitations. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think from my understanding, the data that InTown reports as it relates to that data point is really specifically to folks that are chronically homeless that have been outside for quite some time. Our encampments make up a mixture of people. So not everybody in an encampment is chronically homeless. So hopefully that's not going to be the case for every single person that we're engaging. So I would flag that first. We are working on an expedited timeline, there's no question. And so we are diverting from our SOP to some degree as it relates to that. A couple things that we're doing to try to alleviate some of those potential challenges. One is we are working right now to actually partner with Verizon and the city to get cell phones to disseminate to any individual that is not willing to come to shelter, so that we can be sure we can stay in touch with those individuals and continue working with them and engaging with them so that they can continue to work towards housing, whether or not they choose to go to shelter. In some of these locations, these are places that we have been time and time again. So there are individuals that we are encountering that we have known for a while and that our teams have known for a while. The other thing that we're doing is actually had lunch on Friday with the Elizabeth Foundation, which is just purely a volunteer organization that has been working for a couple years now in the Cheshire Bridge area, for example. They have strong relationships with many of the folks that have historically been resistant to coming into housing. And they actually said, we have some folks that trust us and they are interested in going to the shelter. How can we help facilitate that? So we have their team meeting with our team to help make those connections. So that is something that we always try to rely on, which is existing relationships in the community where we can leverage trust that already exists. So we try to get creative in some of those ways, but I think the reality is we're not going to get a yes 100% of the time. And so the charge and the contractual obligation for our housing navigator teams is to work with the people they've enrolled, whether they come to shelter or not. So they are really tasked and trained to stay in connection with those folks to ensure that they can get into housing over time, whether they say yes the first time or it's the 10th time.
Thank you so much. And I know that, and I recognize that there was a call out for West End and some of the work that y'all are doing. I know it's not necessarily part of this larger bridge remediation effort because from my understanding, there are some real threats to some of the structural integrity of some of these bridges. We've seen it at Chester Bridge Road, we saw it at I-85, and we want to prevent that from happening. But I do want to continue to elevate some of the longstanding challenges we've had in West End at the Joseph Lowry interchange, Lee Street interchange, and the Lawton Street underpass all along I-20. Those encampments or those the folks that live, it's not as large of a situation, but the residual from that does create some negative externalities and challenges for the community that we've had some issues with addressing because of the individuals that are in those locations. So I just want to continue to elevate that, recognizing that it may not necessarily be part of this more immediate effort, but it's still something that I hear about from my constituents and from my communities a lot because it's very visible for folks that, whether you're driving the community or walking the community, like one of those locations is right next to a senior center, so I hear from them all the time about it. So I just want to elevate that piece. My other question is tied to the work that's been happening in Mechanicsville. I shared some of this feedback already with the administration, with Josh and Shatiqua, but just to say it again and say it into a microphone for my Mechanicsville folks that are watching at home, but for 405 Cooper, I know there's some challenges with the land swap that we're trying to work out, and I get that. I do know with the effort to house 100 people there, that was a point of concern for some of my community members, just with the existing challenges that have happened in the community with concentrated poverty and concerns about that being replicated at that site. The challenge that I gave to the administration was to explore ways to make that into a mixed housing development. If you want to do 100 units of supportive housing for our unsheltered population, then let's do a 500-unit development. Otherwise, at least based on what I've seen, what we've seen in the Mechanicsville community over time, that sort of concentration of poverty, the concentration of issues can tend to bleed over into the larger community. We want to avoid that as much as we can. So just want to say that here. That's something I'm going to continue to advocate for, a mixed income sort of project or development to accommodate all of those needs and not concentrate everything into one location. The other piece I do want to share that the community has continued to raise, and I agree, City of Atlanta currently only owns one parcel in the whole neighborhood. I know we're working on trying to acquire a second parcel, but we only own one parcel. It's across the street from Rosa Birney Park, Dunbar Neighborhood Center. There's a growing encampment on that site that continues to grow, and now that temperatures are warming up, it's continuing to grow even more. And I'm not sure if it's being if it's been on y'all's radar or the radar of some of the outreach entities. I know the focus has been on 405 Cooper, the focus has been on Pryor Street, Central Avenue, and those underpasses under I-20. But want to make sure it's on your radar as well, because one of the things that my communities are saying, hey, the city wants to acquire another piece of property in this neighborhood, but we're not doing what we need to do with the existing property that we have. And so there's a degree of skepticism that I'm trying to get them to remove themselves from. So any help y'all can provide on that front will be greatly appreciated. It's at the corner of Fulton and Windsor Street, so it's right across the street from the park. I'm happy to talk with y'all on more details about the location and what's going on there. But I brought it up to the attention of administration, but just want to bring it to your attention directly as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dozier. I just want to, a couple comments. We are actively still working the West End. We've housed over 38 people from those couple areas that you described in the West End, and it is a priority location. It continues to be and will be. So we can get you some updated data on that you can share out with the community, which I think is powerful data to share. And we have gotten some positive feedback from West End constituents as well. So I want to make sure you are armed with the most up-to-date data. We are continuing to focus on Cooper Street encampment as well, and over 61 households have been housed from Cooper Street. We are experiencing a little bit of a woodwork effect there, and I am afraid that some people are coming to Cooper Street who aren't from Mechanicsville, but it's probably a little bit of both, because they're hearing that, oh, people are getting housed, I just have to go over here to this encampment and I'll get housed from here. So we'll continue to figure out how we address that. Rosa Birney was not on my radar, so I appreciate you flagging that. And we get a team out there this week and figure out some next steps.
Thank you. And just one more thought on that piece that you brought up on with regards to 405 Cooper. Is there an opportunity as these encampments are cleared or as these individuals are navigated into housing opportunities to work with the property owner? In that case, it's Atlanta Public Schools, but I imagine there's other properties that y'all are dealing with across the city to have those properties fenced up or closed down to prevent that continuation of that issue. So
Yes.
I mean, we're spending a lot of resources to I would hate to keep playing the game of whack-a-mole, and maybe there's an opportunity, at least for these high-priority sites, to prevent those encampments from springing up in the near term while we get the disposition of the property figured out going forward.
Yes, these are the same words that I speak almost every day to our partners, but Cooper Street has been a little unique in that we kind of stopped and started with rapid housing there, and so we never actually went to a formal closure date and mitigation and securing the site. So we can bring this back to the team to say, okay, what are we going to do in the interim until construction actually starts? And try to figure that out. To your point of the mixed income, that is absolutely something that we are advocating for, and I think we are all on the same page regarding that site. It will be a much larger site, assuming all the pieces come together with the adjoining property as well, and so there's no way that we would create that much density of supportive housing, and so our goal is that it would be a mixed income site with people who are 30% AMI as well as maybe some market even as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Councilmember Dozier. Next, we have Councilmember Boone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Hi, Catherine. Hope all is well.
Good afternoon.
We go way back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Catherine, tell me a little bit about the Melody. How long will a person be there? Where do they go after that? How were they chosen?
Sure. The Melody is considered permanent supportive housing. We're calling it semi-permanent only because the site is only envisioned to be there for about 7 years because the city has in mind future use for the property, and as you probably are aware, had envisioned developing it sooner, but didn't have any takers, and so they said, well, let's repurpose it for now. So to the extent that it's semi-permanent, the people that live there sign a 12-month lease, and as long as they abide by the terms of a standard lease, they can renew and continue to stay there. Because it is tiny home living and extra tiny, we're talking 170 square feet, so it's pretty small. We do expect that people will move on probably after a year or so. And our hope is to assist people in transitioning into other permanent housing, onto other permanent vouchers, depending, again, on their needs. We have some high vulnerability clients there, some people that, one person has an aide that comes almost every day to assist them with activities of daily living. And so we're looking, right now to get her transitioned to potentially a higher level of care. But there's an on-site supportive services team that's working with every person there to make sure that when they do move out, they move on to a permanent destination. That is the plan. The way people are selected is just like every other supportive housing in our system. They come through the coordinated intake and assessment system that HUD requires of the continuous of care. And that's using a standardized assessment tool that assesses an individual's vulnerability. There was some additional eligibility criteria for the Melody, however, that we came to in partnership through conversations with the community. And that was the neighborhood and the businesses were supportive of the Melody, but they said, can we prioritize the unhoused people in our neighborhood? And so we also tried to prioritize unsheltered people that lived around the Melody in that general vicinity. And the other criteria that we had to prioritize was people who needed ADA accessible units. 32 of the 40 units are ADA accessible. And so once we went to our housing queue of the people that had been assessed and who are chronic, we had to go through it and say, okay, who needs accessibility, who's in a wheelchair, has a walker, or has other accessibility issues. So that narrowed the eligibility criteria for the Melody. But that's how we identified the people who moved in.
Thank you. How many people are currently at the Wellstar location?
We have 63 people there currently, I believe, right around 63, and we are expecting another 60 to 80 people move in this week through closures that are scheduled.
How are they chosen?
Those people are identified from priority bridge locations that have been identified through partnerships with Partners for Home, our outreach teams, the City of Atlanta Department of Transportation that has identified priority bridges around the city, and GDOT, the Georgia Department of Transportation. So the DOTs looked at bridges around the city to say, these are bridges that are high priority for us based on a number of factors. The delta from the bridge to the ground, essentially how close they are, what the likelihood of damage due to fires could be, surrounding things that surround the bridge that could be conducive to fire getting out of control. Among other things, whether there's a large encampment there that has had a history of fires. We looked at 911 calls, public health issues related to encampments under bridges. So there was a number of factors that we pulled together to evaluate what bridge locations would be prioritized for this effort.
Thank you. And last question, I see the Martin House managed by National Church Residences located in District 10. I see you have total PSH units 8. What's the time frame on that? Does that mean 8 people will be moving into the Martin House at some point?
Yes, it does. The Martin House is a renovation of an existing affordable development, and 8 of those units in the renovation will be prioritized and dedicated to people who are experiencing chronic homelessness. I do not know off the top of my head what the timeline to bring those units online is, but I can follow up with you offline and let you know today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Boone. Next, we have Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Hey, Catherine. Hello. So not busy, right?
Not at all. Just another day in Disneyland.
No, thank you. For all of the work, one, I wanted to say that very excited to have the Wellstar Initiative, or I should say the Atlanta Medical Initiative in my district. So anything that I can do to support that, I'm here 1,000%.
Thank you.
In fact, I would love for that to be a permanent thing, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
That's above my pay grade.
I think mine as well. Okay. But I can advocate. No, so the other question I wanted to ask is, Mercy Cares housing that's being built right now, just off of, on Hilliard, just off of DeKalb, is that being factored into any of the numbers that you have on here?
Yes, it's on the list. Macaulay Park is what it's called. And actually, we just got an email from their developer, Penrose, yesterday, asking to schedule a call. We have 30 units that are dedicated in that building for supportive housing, and they expect to have the CO, I think he said by July. So
Okay.
he wants to talk through getting applications apply, leases signed and all of that. So we're starting that process now.
Awesome. And placements have already started occurring in Thrive, the PCCI.
Oh, yes. I think we're fully leased up there at Thrive.
And I know that we'll have Atlanta Motel online later this year.
Yes, it can't happen soon enough, but probably, I ask Nan every few weeks, I feel like, but probably not until December.
Okay. I'm very excited for when that happens. And I was also going to ask the piece on the numbers on housed. It seems like you're very close to the goal. Are we doing any numbers or any studies on stay rates in terms of people not returning to the streets? Like, do we know how successful we are? Because I know that the transition can be overwhelming for many.
Yes, we do look at return rates. I don't have the return rate for Lyft with me today, but someone else actually recently asked us for this. Because we have so many different housing types that people are going into, it's not a super easy report for us to just pull. So we need to do a little bit of work to get that return rate, so I can get that for you within the next week or so.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, Living Melody, getting to be a part of that, like getting to come and see the opening and everything else is absolutely beautiful. We are going to do everything we can. I'm going to do everything I can, and my team as well, to make sure that we get at least one, if not more, within District 5, and have already started arranging property tours, but wanted to make sure that you all knew, and that anything that we can do to make sure that those end up in highly amenitized communities instead of segregated, we will do. So.
Absolutely, thank you. And actually, on that note, I wanted to flag that Dallas City Council reached out yesterday. Several of their council people are coming in a couple weeks. They want to see it. And they want to meet with the team to learn more. Ithaca councilman has reached out. I met with him a couple weeks ago. I think Josh has met with another city. And then Richmond is now scheduling a trip to come to Atlanta to see the Melody and learn more about rapid housing. So it is catching fire, which is exciting.
We should make sure to give them all free MARTA cards.
Okay.
They can come down and tour. No, I'm kidding. But that is fantastic, because this is like the first of its, I mean, my hope is that we will have a second location for you, hopefully before the end of the year within District 5.
Oh, for sure.
And just so you all know, like, I think that this, based with the neighborhood case manager programs that we're doing, and D5, I think will go, and will be an extraordinary partnership. So I'm really, really excited. And just very, very appreciative of all this work. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bakhtiari. I know that the three council members here on the right, including myself, represent a large portion of Georgia State University. I was just wondering, is there any coordination with Georgia State as well as MARTA? I know I ride the westbound train from Georgia State, and typically you see encampments inside of the MARTA rail line. I was just wondering if there was any partnership with there as well to try to help some of the encampments.
Yes, MARTA is actually funding a dedicated outreach team that's staffed by Hope Atlanta. So they have team members that are in the stations and riding the train. We are communicating with Georgia State, with their police team and with Georgia State, their Hope team, right now regarding some encampments on the Georgia State property as well, to work on a coordinated closure. So we do partner somewhat with Georgia State, but pretty closely with MARTA.
Okay. And then I was wondering if we could possibly get a list of the GDOT prioritized bridges to just kind of see, which ones are in our district, to just get an idea, because I know folks are seeing this in the news and they're just curious, if it's affecting our individual council districts or not. And also if there's a criteria to help add other locations to that list as well.
Yes, we would be happy to talk with you individually about adding locations that you are concerned about, or communicating whether or not those locations that you are concerned about are already on our list. We are not sharing the list publicly right now, just because there's been significant concern about jeopardizing the safety of the people that are there, the safety of the operation, and a number of other factors at play in that. But we would be more than happy, like I said, happy to meet with you one-on-one to kind of talk through areas of concern and talk through areas of priority that are in your individual districts.
Okay, and I totally understand that. Do you have data that may be shareable about the number of people that may be in encampments at certain bridges?
Yes,
That could be-
we can share that with you. The other thing that we have been offering council members as well is post-closure to share a report. And we've been doing some of that with Councilmember Dozier as well about some of the areas of concern in his district, just to say, hey, here's an update of how many people have been housed from this location. We are adding a little bit more to that report to have a formal report that we can provide with council members that have before and after pictures that, again, have the number of people that were there, the number of people that were housed, the number of people who refused. And that's something that can arm you with information to share with constituents and stakeholders in your district as well.
Okay, all right. And looks like Councilmember Bakhtiari has another question.
Yeah, when we talked about when you were talking about the coordinated closure with Georgia State, I was going to say, do we also have that list? Because, well, one, I have to give a shout out because we got the Bill Kennedy closure done, and Maynard Terrace, which has been, God, I don't even know how many years at this point, but we have finally closed that down as well. So really big shout out to Partners for Home as well as Major Canton, who has been extraordinary. So I just wanted to see if we could get a list of the current closures planned and where, maybe district specific, if that would be possible, just to see where we might be in terms of priority.
We would be happy to meet with you and talk through the priority locations. We are trying not to disseminate a detailed list, and trying to keep some of those locations confidential leading up to the closure. And then we would be happy to provide a detailed report post-closure, but happy to talk offline to hear from you what areas are concerns, confirming whether or not those are priority locations and what can be done about them.
Understood.
If that works.
Yep. And congratulations again to Councilmember Dozier, to Partners for Home, and to the administration for setting a national standard on rapid housing. And I'm excited that all of these council members will be coming to Atlanta to tour. So
Yes,
congrats on that.
All right, any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Anxious to get to our legislative items, because one of which is a $3 million donation to Partners from Home, sponsored by Councilmember Boone. So looking forward to discussing that item here in a few minutes. But thank you so much for your quarterly update, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, thank you all so much.
All right, everyone, this takes us back to our regular agenda. We'll go with item G, which is the communication resolutions. Item number 1.
Item number 1 is 24R3286, a resolution by Community Development Human Services reappointing Mr. Mike Howell as the Atlanta City Council appointee to the Board of Directors of the Boulevard Community Improvement District for a term of 4 years and for other purposes. We'll work to get this appointee to appear at the next meeting.
Got a motion to hold by Councilmember Bakhtiari. I got heard a second by Dozier. Mr. Evans, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, colleagues, this takes us to item H, consent agenda.
Item number 2 is 24O1145, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee waiving Article 10, Division 4 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into new operating agreement with Piedmont Park Conservancy effective as of March 21st, 2023, with respect to the operation and management of facilities located in Piedmont Park on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation for a period of 5 years commencing on March 21st, 2023 through March 20th, 2028, and for other purposes.
Thank you. This takes us to our regular agenda, Section I, ordinances for second reading. Item number 3.
24O1106, an ordinance by, actually, there's a substitute in your packet.
Yes.
Members.
Colleagues, I'd like to make a motion to bring forth the substitute. I have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. And colleagues, just to be clear, that substitute was to clarify the scope of work. At this time, we'll ask Deputy Commissioner Voss if he could speak to this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of council. It's Doug Voss, Department of Parks and Recreation. As stated, this ordinance adds the Department of Parks and Recreation to an existing agreement with the Center of Employment Opportunities. We've worked with them since November of last year and had very successful results. We have identified a need to include additional debris, litter, and trash collection at a lot of our parks. They've done a fantastic job, and we would actually like to see the service remain uninterrupted. We have a number of new properties, and we are increasing services at existing properties. And then to tell the truth, in some cases, we just need to fill vacancies with staffing, and so this service has been able to do that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but again, we've been very pleased with this. We'd just like to see this continue. We are using money that was allocated through the millage to continue this program, and look forward to working with them.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve as substituted by Councilmember Westmoreland. We have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Before we open the vote, any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, Mr. Evans, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. This takes us to item number 4.
Item number 4, 24-011-13, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond authorizing the Chief Financial Officer of the City of Atlanta or his designee to add funding from the Park Improvement Fund to support security services for city-owned outdoor pools, parks, and other recreation sites and activities on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation in an aggregate amount not to exceed $1,500,000 and 0 cents, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend the contract to apply the park improvement funds in support of expansion and recurring existing security needs and for other purposes. There's an amendment in your packet that will remove that mayor language.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'll make a motion to amend. Second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Deputy Commissioner Voss.
Thanks again, Mr. Chair, members of council. This ordinance provides funding for our post-certified contract. We've been using this for a little over a year now. Again, this allows us to use millage funding, which has been approved. It'll provide security services at parks and recreation events across the city, including midnight basketball, which starts again next week. It also provides security services at all of our pools. We did that last year. It was very successful, and so we'd like to do that again for this coming season, but we would like to use the millage funds as an account stream. So this ordinance allows that to do that with 2 companies that are on the existing contract. We've been satisfied with both, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Boone. I'll second. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. This takes us to item number 5.
24-011-19. There's a substitute in your package here that will add the specific articles to be amended.
And go ahead and make a motion to substitute. Second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. That amended caption is going to read, an ordinance by Council Member Jason Dozier is substituted by the Community Development Human Services Committee, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a First Amendment to ground lease agreement with Partners for Home with respect to the lease of certain city-owned property known as 184 Forsyth Street, Southwest Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia, tax parcel ID numbers listed here, to modify Article 17 to the ground lease agreement, waiving Section 1547 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes.
Colleagues, I have Josh Humphreys here to speak, but Matt Betzel, I don't know if maybe you can speak to this item.
Hey, afternoon, Council. Matt Betzel, Director of the Housing Innovation Lab. I'm here to speak on behalf of Josh, who couldn't make it. So this is a small change to the ground lease structure which allows us, the city, to pay contractors on the property. Right now, there was a small issue that wasn't allowing us to do that.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. Would all members please vote? Vote is closed, 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Colleagues, this takes us to item number 6.
Item number 6 is 24-01121, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Labor and Employment Services WorkSource Atlanta office to accept a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Dislocated Worker Program grant for rapid response in an amount not to exceed $90,000 from the Technical College System of Georgia Office of Workforce Development, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY24 Job Training Grant Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in an amount not to exceed $90,000 and for other purposes.
Deputy Commissioner Walker.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for giving me an audience this afternoon. As mentioned, this is in reference to a small but important grant from the Technical College System of Georgia for the purpose of providing rapid response services should there be a need within the city limits.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Boone. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. So, item number 7. 24-01122, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, also known as WorkSource Atlanta, to accept a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act adult program grant in the amount of $584,392.00 from the Technical College System of Georgia Office of Workforce Development, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY24 Job Training Grant Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $584,392.00 and for other purposes.
This grant will be the final adult category grant for this fiscal year until the new year and the new appropriation.
Make a motion to approve. Second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Mr. Evans, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 8, 24-01123, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, also known as WorkSource Atlanta, to accept a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Dislocated Worker Program grant in the amount of $1,569,187.00 from the Technical College System of Georgia Office of Workforce Development, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY24 Job Training Grant Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $1,569,187.00 and for other purposes.
Thank you. More for you.
This grant is for dislocated worker monies and is purposed to provide workforce services and employment training for individuals who are experiencing joblessness. And this will complete our round of designated funding for the fiscal year.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. We have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. And vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is 24-01125, an ordinance by Council Member Byron D. Amos authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a quitclaim deed conveying the city's interest in property located at 340 Holly Street Northwest, Fulton County tax parcel ID number listed here at an amount not to exceed $1.00 to the City of Atlanta, Fulton County Land Bank Authority, Inc., DBA Metro Atlanta Land Bank for the public purpose of returning the property to an effective utilization status in order to provide permanently affordable housing in the Grove Park neighborhood and for other purposes.
Ed Zoll, welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be back. So this is a small city-owned site that has been vacant for a number of years. The city acquired it, I think, almost a decade ago. It was the site became vacant as a result of a fire that burned down a multifamily building on the property. It sat in city ownership for a number of years. We are working with a land bank, or hoping to work with a land bank, to identify a redevelopment partner for affordable housing on the site.
All right, any questions or comments from my colleagues? A motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 10, 24-01127, an ordinance by Council Member Byron D. Amos to amend, actually there's a substitute in your packet. I apologize.
A motion to bring forth the substitute by Councilmember Dozier, second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute caption reads, an ordinance by Council Member Byron Amos as substituted by the Community Development and Human Services Committee, an ordinance to amend the land use element of the City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate certain properties in the West Highlands community and Rockdale community from the open space land use classification and medium density residential classification to mixed use medium density and mixed use high density classifications and for other purposes.
Mr. Chair, no, we're going to hold this paper, but before we do, I want to make a motion to amend to add Council Member Hillis's name. This is in his district.
Second. We've got a motion to amend to add Councilmember Hillis's name. We have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
One moment. Okay, the vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'll make a motion to hold as amended. And substituted. I have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
All right, the vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Takes us to resolutions. We have one item. No, more than one item. We'll start with item 11.
Item number, excuse me, item number 1124R3290. A resolution by council members Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Keisha Shawn Waits, Liliana Bakhtiari, Mary Norwood, Alex Wan, Jason Dozier, Antonio Lewis, Matt Westmoreland, Byron D. Amos, Howard Shook, Jason Winston, and Michael Julian Bond to create a commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin and for other purposes.
Councilman Westmoreland.
At their requests, I'd like to make a motion to amend to add Amir Faroqi and Dustin Hillis's name to this paper.
One moment. Would you remind me who the seconder was?
I was.
The vote is open. All right, then the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Have a second by Councilmember Boone. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Or is it?
Takes us to item number 12.
Number 12 is 24R3291, and a resolution by Council Member Andrea L. Boone authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to donate an amount not to exceed $3 million and 0 cents from the Housing Trust Fund to Partners for Home pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to support the provision of quick delivery housing for the city's unhoused residents and participation in the Rapid Housing Initiative, to authorize PFH to utilize funds from the donation authorized hereby to cover the cost of any other housing construction or related costs concerning its participation in the Rapid Housing Initiative, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a donation agreement which shall detail the actions of PFH to provide quick delivery housing and to participate in the Rapid Housing Initiative and for other purposes.
Bedzo, I think you're back.
I was told to just say this will give us more 184 foresight. If you like the melody, we're trying to do more of that. I think Catherine spoke about some of the sites that we've identified. We're ready to move quickly on them.
Sounds like I heard a motion to approve by Councilmember Boone. I have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 13, 24R3292, a resolution by Council Member Jason H. Winston authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $100,000 and 0 cents from the District 2 discretionary fund account to the Candler Park Conservancy and for other purposes.
I'd like to make an amendment, make a motion to amend to add Councilmember Faroqi's name to this. A second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Second by Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open.
Item number 14.
1 moment.
Quick there.
All right, the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. So, item number 14, 24R3353, A resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter into a third amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding with Piedmont Park Conservancy to extend the term of the MOU for a period of 4 years commencing on March 21st, 2024 through March 20th, 2028 and for other purposes.
Deputy Commissioner Voss.
Mr. Chair, members of council, this resolution renews a current MOU with Piedmont Park Conservancy to maintain and operate and manage portions of Piedmont Park along with the city. This partnership has existed for 35 years, and we look forward to continuing.
A motion to approve by Councilman Westmoreland. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 5 yeas, 0 nays. So that'll bring us to 17. It's 22-1038, CDP 2006, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate a portion of the property located at 1576 Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway from the low-density commercial land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to file. I have a second by Councilman Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. And the vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, colleagues, that takes us to the end of our legislative items. Any parting words or comments from anyone? I would like to wish a happy 92nd birthday to Ambassador Yan. Today is his 92nd birthday, so just want to wish him a happy birthday. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.